The minor blues is a great place to explore melodic minor, and you can get a lot of beautiful, very different sounds out of it. In this video, I'm going to go over a transcribed chorus of a solo and show you some of the different sounds, how you get them, what you work on, not only for the minor chords, but also for some of the important melodic minor modes like Lydian Dominant and the Altered Dominant. My name is Jens Larsen, learn jazz, make music. Let's start with the solo chorus, and then I'm going to break it down and show you what I'm using and how you can get it into your playing. The backing track that I'm playing the solo over was made by Quist, and if you want to improve your melodic minor chops and play some solos, then there's a link to that track in the description of this video. The first few phrases are sounding more like blues phrases than a bebop line, but that is also a sound that you have in there, and it's a great thing to also take advantage of. The material that I'm using is really just based on the basic chord tones of an A minor 6, and that's really great for getting a blues sound across. So you even have that in melodic minor. It kind of sounds a little bit like B.B. King to me. The way that I'm playing it in the main example, I'm kind of keeping it clean, so I'm not adding any slides or slurs in there. And you could actually get a stronger blues feel by phrasing it like this. So I'm mostly using the A minor 6 or F sharp half diminished arpeggio. And it's worth noting that those two chords actually have the same notes. They are inversions of each other. So if you know the arpeggio for one of them, then you also know it for the other one. You can play that arpeggio like this. And with these notes, it's fairly easy to actually get some blues sounding phrases out. Something like this. So I'm playing slightly shorter phrases, focusing on the rhythm, not afraid of repeating notes, and that gives it a little bit more blues feeling. Not really about what notes you play, it's about how you play them. Another example with some double stops could sound something like this. Something I first want to cover here, which is extremely useful and important, and that you always want to check out for any scale that you want to use in a solo: diatonic chords and diatonic arpeggios. If you know those, then you'll see it later in the video. I'm using this all the time, and when you have them, you have thousands of things that you can play. For A melodic minor, we have these diatonic arpeggios. You should check these out along the neck, where they're sort of easy to have an overview of, but you also want to check them out in position, because that's also very often where you need them. Now, you already saw how this works really well when you're making blues phrases. Let's check out some more things that you can do with the diatonic arpeggios. The next phrase is a combination of two arpeggios, A minor 6 and C major 7 sharp 5. The way that I'm using the A minor 6 in this context doesn't really sound like blues as it did in the first example that I was talking about. So here it really starts to sound more like a jazz lick or a jazz melody. The reason that the C major 7 sharp 5 works so well on a tonic minor chord like an A minor 6 in this case is quite simple, because this is the arpeggio from the third of the chord. In melodic minor, then the chord that we have on the tonic or on the root is a minor major chord. So in this case, that's an A minor major. So A, C, E, and G sharp. In this case, then the third is of course C, and the arpeggio that we have there is a C major 7 sharp 5. So C, E, G sharp, and B. This gives us really just the same notes as the A minor major, except we're leaving out the root and we're getting a ninth instead, because we have the third, the fifth, the major 7, and then the ninth of the A minor major. So the way I'm playing it here is a slightly different fingering, because that allows for sweeping. So I'm starting with the B here, and then sweeping the rest. And then instead of using an A minor major, I'm using the A minor 6. So I'm starting with the F sharp, and then the same technique to play the rest of the arpeggio. In bar 4, I'm playing a phrase where I'm superimposing a chord. So I'm actually playing a chord that's not there in the backing track, but this still works, because what I'm trying to do is that I'm trying to create some tension on the A minor chord, or in this case what I'm playing is an A7, and then I'm resolving that once we change chord in bar 5 to D minor. In a real situation with a real rhythm section, then the rhythm section might go along with you, but it doesn't really matter. It works either way because we're just trying to create some tension and we're going to resolve it once the chord changes. A7 altered is B flat melodic minor, so this is another melodic minor sound that I'm using, and the line that I'm playing is really just using a B flat minor triad. That's because B flat minor as a triad really works well on top of an A7 altered, because it gives us the flat 9, the third, and the flat 13. And the melody that I'm playing is really just based around this really basic B flat minor triad. The phrase on the D minor 6 chord is a little bit less clear or a little bit less obvious when it comes to sounding like melodic minor, but at the same time it's also a great example of how you can use structures as motifs and in that way be quite melodic. So the first part of it is really just an E sus4 triad played in this pattern. And this is then followed with the same melody but then played on an A sus4 triad. Checking out the sus4 triads for scales is maybe sometimes a little bit underestimated because there are some really great melodies in there, and it's not one of the exercises that you hear people talk about really a lot. For the melodic minor scale, that would sound like this. And besides having some really interesting, surprising sounds, it actually also has some funny or at least weird chord names. The final cadence in the minor blues in bar 9 and 10 are there just to really give us the sound of the dominant, and then we resolve that back to the tonic to really tell us now we are at the end of the form, unless we get a turnaround. And in this case, of course, the dominant in an A minor blues is E7. I'm playing an E7 altered, and this is combined with an F7 Lydian Dominant. The F7 is actually a tritone substitution of B7, but you can use F7 really well. It sounds really natural in minor because F is actually a common note in A minor. It's the flat 6. It's something that we're used to the sound of, so it works really well in the context to play F7, E7. I'm playing the F7 as a Lydian Dominant, so that means that I'm using the notes of C melodic minor on it, and that gives me a dominant scale where I have a 9, a 13 and a sharp 11. The line that I'm playing on the F7 is based around an E flat major 7 sharp 5 arpeggio. So that's really just again using the major 7 sharp 5 arpeggio from the third of the scale, which of course in this case is C melodic minor. So that would be D, B, G and E flat. And this really gives me sort of a lot of important notes on top of the F7 because I get the 13, the sharp 11, the 9th and also the flat 7. E7 altered is of course also melodic minor because that's the same note set as F melodic minor, and the line that I'm playing is based on an F minor triad and a D half diminished arpeggio. First we get two notes from an F minor triad, and then we get a D half diminished arpeggio. And the arpeggio from the flat 7 of an altered dominant is really a great way of spelling out that sound because we have the flat 7, flat 9, the third and the flat 13. So really giving us sort of most of the information of this chord. And I'm playing this as an ascending arpeggio, so like this, resolving it to the 9th of the A minor. Really to get that sound of the melodic minor in there, using first the 9, then the major 7 and the major 6. In the final bar, I'm using a combination of arpeggios to create the line, and this is actually a great strategy for creating lines. Very often you can create lines that flow really well and also have quite a large range, which works well especially in this place because this is in the turnaround. We have an E7 altered and we want to have something that really has some energy and moves along so that it takes us to the next chorus. So the chord I'm playing on here is just E7 altered, so like this. And E7 altered is F melodic minor, and the material that I'm using is also really related to F melodic minor. So I'm using the A flat major 7 sharp 5 arpeggio and the F minor arpeggio. And this is really similar to what I was doing with the other altered dominants. So the previous E7 and also the A7 in bar 4, really using basic material related to the melodic minor scale. Now that you have an idea about how great melodic minor sounds on a minor blues, then maybe you want to build a stronger foundation of structures that you can use when you're improvising. You can do this by checking out this video where I cover a lot of the basic structures, show you some of the great sounds you can get with that, and also a few more surprising, less common structures that have a lot of color that you definitely want to have in your playing.